I mean, after watching this week's episode of Gundam Witch from Mercury, I was just blown away by the action of the episode. I mean, Guel versus Elan, just the Ice Prince. This boy took me for a ride and then some. Naturally, the voice in the back of your head says, don't trust someone who's that cold. But I was thinking, okay, because we're in that school dynamic and they're clearly taking their time for things to truly hit the fan in the way that war breaks out, parent versus kid, this type of stuff that Gundam eventually always ends up doing. I thought maybe we would have moments where, they're saying the Ice Prince never smiles, never shows reactions. Okay, Suletta's going on this little date, maybe he'll smile, rumors will get spread in school, she'll get to know his birthday, right? I thought they were kind of trying to bait us in that way. And then to see how he snaps and just becomes so cold, like living up to the Ice Prince title, and then to see the match between Guel as well as him. Realistically, probably not, but I thought to myself, could the man recover 3 defeats? Like, if he loses here, where does he go? But at the same time, you could argue, well, his father already thinks he's a failure. If he wins, he probably gains some daddy respect, but if he fails, the dad already thinks he's trash, so maybe there's nothing to lose for Guel to begin with. But it doesn't change the fact that the boy stood up for Suletta, who very much was that scene with her, dead eyes and just the tears forming. That was bone-chilling, man. And to see how it escalates, not into another marriage proposal, but rather, I want Ariel. I want your Gundam. That will be mine if I defeat you. Realistically, of course, if we're going to have these two fight this episode, he has to lose, so then in return, Suletta can fight this man. And there's probably going to be a lot of debate about what he is. Is he her brother, a family member? I think that's a reasonable idea in theory, given the fact that when she was talking with the one girl there, she was basically acting like, you have a sibling, and she's like, no, I don't have a sibling, and basically if you have a birthday, I can tell you all this information. He didn't give the birthday in this episode, it's just something that could very well be something they decide to go down in terms of a plot line. However, at the same time, it could go down that the Ice Prince is completely manufactured. There's some lines in this episode that just make me feel like he's not completely human. So there's a couple different paths, in my opinion, that they could go down right now that are probably equally memorable. Having Suletta's mother say, hey, there's another witch here, as you have the one basically responsible for our Ice Prince here. It's just, things are starting to spice up, but they're not imploding as quickly as Gundam is typically used to. And like I said in the previous video, I expect that this core will be relatively tame in terms of the world not imploding around the characters. That said, as we see with this episode, pretty slice of life driven, character driven, but the end of the episode had a badass fight scene, and they kicked off the episode with a pretty cool fight scene as well. So it doesn't mean they can't have action, it's just I doubt things are gonna, we're not gonna see Suletta or Mirin's arm get blown off before the end of the first core, if ever, right? It's gonna take its time to build up to it, and in return we're gonna build this school dynamic into an interesting setting, because when you look at a girl like Suletta, manipulated by essentially everyone around her, or 90% at the very least. You have Mother who will talk to her on the phone saying, yes, you're scratching things off your wish list, what you want to do dream-wise, you should definitely go out and meet new people. But really, we know Mother is using her and her Gundam for revenge, right? That is her ultimate goal, right? And the way they can go so casually from carrying Mother on the phone to ominous villain music when other people walk into the room and she puts the helmet on Darth Vader style, it's bone-chilling, right? But the thing that I like is seeing the most simplistic of moments and how it's painful, but at the same time, you see the spark of hope for her. Her just having girl talk in her room, right? Something that clearly she's never been able to do. And the fact that she just, the simple things like wanting to know someone's birthday, it's such a basic thing, but for her, clearly has never been able to do that. And I'm interested to see, because in my opinion, because this episode confirms it, it's been relatively, I think, agreed upon in the community, but this episode confirms she doesn't remember how her father died or when he died. Meaning that everything that happened in the prologue, where she was in control, big explosions, fireworks, the happy birthday song, she doesn't remember that. That is something from her childhood that she is oblivious to. What I think is going to happen is that there's going to come a point, I'm not sure this core, maybe not even next core, because I imagine it'll probably be a normal 50 episode run in total, but only time will tell. I expect there's going to come a point where Suletta's going to be in an actual life or death situation, and I think that memory is going to come back to her, and I think it's going to trigger her to kind of lose her mind. I really feel like because she's oblivious to her childhood, that could very well pop back up in an actual battlefield, because sometimes memories trigger when you're in something that's similar. You could argue in the middle of one of these mock battles, it could happen, sure, but I feel like when we're actually in those moments where she's fighting for her life, not just who gets to win and who gets to lose at a school battle, instead, that's when it's going to kick in and her mind's going to essentially snap, and that could then trigger everything with resentment with Mama, and that could end up becoming a divide, right? We already have essentially two sides on the adult sides of this school, who's trying to sabotage or kill the other. Add in a group of kids, it's going to be a war triangle that's probably going to be unlike any other. And I'm really interested to see what they're going to do. But the fight scene in this episode, I really liked. The intro to it was fun. It was nothing extraordinary, but it was enough to say, damn, once again, they're really refining their craft at how these mech battles really come out to feel different than a lot of shows out there. When it came to Guel and the Ice Prince's battle, though, I really like the two different styles. You essentially have a macho mech with a giant axe, some cool designs. They had like these little turrets, like these little machine guns around the chest area, so it would never get in the way, because often when you have those mechs with like a giant gun shattering buildings apart, it's like on the arm or something, so it's a big clunky gun. But this way, he could still swing, shoot. You could tell there was some thought put into these battle designs. And then you have our Ice Prince, who basically, it's functioning like a nightmare from Code Geass. You have these things circling around, lasers going in every which direction. And really, once he got his initial shot to the leg, I knew it was over at that point. Prior to that, I was like, man, what if he actually can win, right? Because you never know, like, Guel's not, he's talented, right? It's just shit's hitting the fan in ways he probably never expected. And the fact that, you know, you just see so many shots where just like he's getting obliterated, it's first the leg, and then it's the shield, and then everything just ceases to function. And then to rub salt into the wound, he grabs him by the horn and just snaps that fool. And I'm like, this shit is brutal, and the action kind of reminded me of, if anyone's ever seen the Breakblade movies, they're pretty good in my opinion. It's a lot of action and some incredible animation. The way they were fighting in this episode, it kind of gave me a very similar feel to how those fights function, because there's a lot of variety. It's not just like someone shoots a gun or swings a sword. Like, everything about it just feels like they're constantly doing different things, and the different designs on these bots are just so visually unique, but most importantly, the way they detail them for action really comes across as different fighting styles. And I'm interested to see, because there's some shots in this episode that are pure horrifying. Like, Ice Prince's shift from neutral to just psychotic bitch mode, I mean, that was pretty horrifying. And like I've mentioned, the red glow that looks identical to our girl, Suletta, but seemingly is different. But, you know, that's where like the whole, are they siblings or is he a creation kind of comes into play. The whole idea that he wants her aerial, like, there's a lot of questions to be had. But either way, the fact that that red glow still reminds me of the Renegade path in Mass Effect, it just is so horrifying, but it's so badass all at the same time. And I'm really interested to see where they're going to go with the narrative, because you would assume Suletta could win, because if she loses here and loses Ariel, where does she go? That could be a story arc, don't get me wrong. She loses it, he then starts experimenting with it, she eventually gets it back because someone fights in her favor or something, because they have something that the Ice Prince wants, so then he can gamble it. There is a path for that, but one would suspect, based on how she's gone so far, she could win. But honestly, it's not guaranteed in my opinion, especially after seeing how this man fights. Shit's getting wild. I mean, it'd be funny if just somehow, you know, she ends up winning and we get another damn proposal, but I think for the narrative that they're going for, it's very much like this man wants one thing and one thing only, and that is her Gundam. And very much the fact that it seems like it's the perfect Gundam, people are very interested in it. Why is it no longer, you know, some horrible thing that kills its user? Why is she okay with it, right? There's a lot of things that are going on, and people are being manipulated left and right, as at face value, most of these students are just playing students. Yeah, they're trying to make their families happy, but most importantly, they don't see the political sabotage behind the scenes, and that's pretty crazy. Either way, thoughts and feelings and ideas down below on what you thought of this pretty insane episode, in my opinion. A lot of setup, but insane nonetheless. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around here. You can also consider supporting the Patreon if you want to see my live reaction to today's episode, and also you can get video shoutouts like BlueSummer is getting today. So thank you so much for the support. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.